Okay, welcome back to another Sculpt session. If you've seen the other ones, you've seen that this is a new guy. This is a guy I've been working on for a little while now, and it's not a project I've unveiled until today. It's I don't know if you can recognize him, but this is a classic Magic the Gathering character. And yeah, it's Nicol Bolas. And there's a lot more to him that is not being revealed right now, or not that I'm hiding it, it's just not visible. I have layers hidden, so I can work without distraction, and this is actually a separate file from the whole piece. The whole piece currently, he's got wings, he's standing on a rocky platform, he's got some massive scales jutting out from his back here and tail. But yeah, currently, what I've been focusing on is just these guys, the skin creases, and the skin details of the back and this the whole spiny section. So I've given him spiny little knobs, I guess is a good description of it, along the back ends of his forearms, along the triceps, along his rear delts here, the back of the neck, top of the head. And then the front is more well, it's less protected, I guess you could say. This is, the soft underbelly, as they would say. However, there's going to be plating, just not as many, scalature going on here. I just made that word up, but. So yeah, I, for a while, have debated on whether or not to record and post the progress of this guy. I've been recording, I'm gonna make a pretty big like time-lapse video of this guy. But in terms of posting the progress of it, I wasn't sure about, because I don't know how exciting and engaging it'll be, because look what I'm doing right now. I'm just basically chiseling in the skin wrinkles in between the scales. That's not very exciting. I'm gonna finish the top of the head before I move on to the arms. I forgot I was just about to finish up the top here. This guy. Yeah. Where was I? So yes, I was debating on whether or not to post the progress of this guy. As you can see, there's just not a lot of movement going on. It's not very engaging. I do have my own music playing this time, because I'll be working on this guy for a little while and being left with my own thoughts. I get bored even, doing art. So having some kind of video or playlist going while I work is a nice way to keep myself, I guess, my subconscious engaged, because I think I've mentioned this earlier, but being able to sit and do art for hours undistracted does not come naturally to me. It's I don't know how long the term type A has been used, but very much a type A kind of guy. Like going out, talking to people, that kind of stuff, and just generally doing things. So sitting down and doing art is sometimes just getting to the table is a challenge in and of itself. And then once I'm there, it's more about getting into the flow of it. But today is Saturday. When I release this video, it's probably going to be Sunday, but currently it is Saturday. I have the day off from work, and so that is Saturdays and Wednesdays. I focus on making this character because I have a pretty good amount of time. These guys are distracted me, these horns. Because I have a pretty good amount of time to work on it. It's just, well, hold on, I can mirror this because the head is symmetrical in terms of location and the space it takes up. So I can, oh, hello, why would you do that? So I can just mirror, yeah. So now I can hide these. Well, come on. Big process for ZBrush right there. And I'll just hide this guy as well. So he's got this like egg head thing, which I guess is supposed to be his brother? I'm not too sure. But what I do know is that it's going to be a lot quicker if I just show everything again. Alright, yeah, we get it. It's a big process for you. And do that. Yeah. So now I can just sculpt on this guy. So what the heck is that? I have no idea what that pixelation is, but that's pretty weird. Huh, I've never seen this before. It has to be... Man, I don't even know what that would be. Oh, is it, yeah, poly paint for some reason was activated. I'm gonna break for this plane here. But yeah, I have Saturdays and Wednesdays to work on this. And so I take my time. I spend a pretty good amount of time of those days working on this guy. And I've been doing that for maybe a couple months now. 6 hours a week average. It's not a lot. So it's a slow project, but when I was in school, I really took advantage of not having to work. I had that. I was lucky enough where I could, I had a job, but it was a part-time position. It wasn't like a full-time. It wasn't like a full-time project that I was, just all my time was taken up doing. And so I spent a lot of time, hours and hours and hours every day just working on art. And this is towards the end of my college career. It's like pretty much all I focused on. And that's because I knew that once I graduated, I would not have as much time per day to work on what I wanted to work on. I would have to be working, jobs to pay loans and buy groceries and pay rent and all that stuff. So I took the time then to develop my skills to a point where even if I only had a few hours a day to work, I could get a lot more done if I took the time during college to really learn the process. it wouldn't change the fact that it would take a while, but it would allow me to just work that much quicker, you know, like take the time to work on my projects and not the time to learn how to work on them. Obviously, I am still learning things all the time when it comes to art. I feel like you should always be studying and trying to learn something new if you can. But I do that in different kinds of projects. This is one of those projects that I'm trying, not much is being learned through the process of this, at least intentionally. And that's because I know what the goal is. This is a commissioned piece. Well, I shouldn't say commission. I'm doing it for a buddy of mine. He's got a D&D campaign going, and this is like their guy, I guess, the main baddie of the I don't know. I should know what you call these, the main baddie of the campaign, the villain, right? And so the campaign is going fairly slow, so I have a good amount of time, he said, to work on this. So I could have had this guy done. I could have brought it to a point a while ago where I could have, we could have printed this thing out for him and gotten it in his game, but he said there's no rush and to take my time. So that is what I'm doing, which is nice. And, the pressure's kind of off. I know, they're not going to get to this guy for, I think he said, like almost a year. This is a long campaign, which is insane. I didn't realize it could be that long, I guess they can kind of be as long as you want. But anyways, that was really nice to hear that I had all that time. Oh crap. I wish they would change this on the UI. It's about to jump back in history pretty significantly. Hopefully it doesn't crash it, because that would suck. Okay. All right. Yeah, time to get back to where you were. Bear with me here for a second. That happened because I'm just trying to click and drag, and just to pan around the sculpt. You click outside the box and you can pan, but on occasion I misjudge. I overshoot my click and drag, which is not something you get in traditional drawing. You can't accidentally undo history. Which is why I still like to doodle all the time. I think it's important to keep up on sketching and practicing, form, line, light, shadow. If you can master those things, which take a while, but if you can kind of make anything, as long as you have the creative, you're in the creative flow. You definitely, I believe in references. I think you need to get to a point, you could definitely get to a point where you don't need reference to make things the way you want to make them. Though, I feel that comes with an indescribable amount of practice. There's, Kim Jong-gi, the late, great Kim Jong-gi, that incredible draftsman. I don't think he ever did manga, but he just did amazing illustrations, and he had what he described as like a cabinet in his head full of references. So in a sense, he was still drawing with references. The references were just in his head. And of course, at a certain point, I am sure muscle memory just came into play there. For myself, I still need to use references. And I probably will for decades to come. something that I struggle with is it's actually imagination, in a sense, because I shouldn't say that. My imagination is actually too active, but the problem comes from not knowing what part of my imagination to use to achieve a goal. Sometimes because I have a lot of ideas, and it can be difficult to kind of hone in which ideas to use over others. And so sometimes references can help clear the waters in that area. You know, I can see how other people, as I explained before, you could think about an art piece as a problem. You know, it's like a math problem in a sense, where there is an answer, or, you know, some people would argue there's not, but if you're trying to achieve something specifically, there is an answer, and you've got to find that. And so seeing how other people have solved that problem, you know, the problem of how to do wrinkles on skin. All right, there's a way. There's many ways. This is one of the ways. This is the way that the guy I'm doing it for liked, so I'm doing it this way. And yeah, so that's why I use references. It's going to be a long time before I think I feel comfortable. I'll sculpt without references for fun, you know, just free sculpting, essentially, when I don't really have a goal and I'm just playing around. In a funny twist, I usually don't like those pieces as much, because I'm, you know, for all intents and purposes, very new to the game of art. I only really started taking it seriously maybe half a decade ago, I'd say, you know. So not 5 years, really. And then only maybe 3 years ago did I actually decide to commit. Because I made the decision to go to school for art, which was, you know, in a sense, me taking it serious. I took AP art classes my senior year of high school, which in a sense was me taking it serious. But, you know, I watch MMA, and in MMA there's a saying, you know, there's levels to this, and there's levels to everything, you know. And I'm sure that's not just a saying specifically, you know, only to MMA. There's levels to everything. And so it was only around my junior year of college that I kind of jumped up to that next level, I would say. And I'm still there. I'm still at that level in terms of my commitment, I'd say. Well, I guess just my certainty. My commitment level has been tested, I think, after college, because, you know, life happens, and now all of a sudden you got to decide, is this really what you want to do? Because life after college is jarring, you know. As I'm sure it was very similar to life after high school. A little different, I'd say, though, because by the time I graduated, I knew I was going to college. I knew I was going to higher education. But now, it's not as certain. Okay, that's enough of that for now. And I'm gonna, like, you know, fade this stuff in at some point. Fade it in. I'm gonna blend this in. But before I do that, so I only really pushed this guy to, like, base secondary form in terms of, I'll make everything visible again. Hopefully it doesn't destroy my computer. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, pretty much just secondary forms here. I haven't done a lot of, like, in the folds of this, you know, creases and stuff. So my idea here is he's got the plating, which is just this stuff here, you know, that's all plating. And then he has the skin, obviously, or leathery skin. The reference, so there's a specific reference that the guy I'm doing this for his campaign, he sent me. He goes, I really liked this. Can you do that for me? And I go, yeah, for sure. And so, well, before I go any further, I am going to save the progress here. So bear with me for a second. I'll get back to that. Okay, so that's saved, and so now, where was I? I think I was saying I only pushed this to like base secondary detail, and so the only reason I started really going in with skin wrinkles around the scales here is because in terms of secondary skin detail, it's being hidden and covered by these scales here. And so I didn't feel like it'd be worth my time to go in and really sculpt out secondary skin fold detail, because then there's a word get too busy. This is already very, very busy. On top of that, there's big, and you don't see it here because there's a hidden layer, big scales running down the back, and massive wings. So this whole part is going to be very hidden, just from the rest of the body. And so, for the sake of time, for the sake of efficiency, and for the sake of resting the eye, I didn't go crazy on the back. So this is at a point now, pretty much, where I'm doing skin detail stuff, like the wrinkles and all that. But here, especially in the neck area, face area, the horns have armature on them, so a lot of it is going to be hidden, but there are parts that are not going to be hidden, so I'm going to make those visible. Where I definitely, of course, have to push it a little further to meet a certain standard. So specifically, there's a reference that he sent me that he liked, and as opposed to my own creative flow, when I'm just going and I'm doing what I like, this is for someone. This is for their his D&D campaign. So I really want to try and hit the mark in which he is set, in terms of overall design, and so that's what I'm going to be doing today. I wouldn't show, well, I guess I can probably, when I edit the video, show the reference I'm talking about, but as I've said before, I don't know. I feel like it's not worth learning how to show my pure ref drag it onto the screen and show. My first video I posted where I tried to do that, it looked like I was just gesturing at an empty screen. So, for the sake of not seeming insane and talking about something that you guys can't see, I'm just going to not do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start sculpting in. Well, first I'm going to take a look at this and make sure I enjoy. I like what I've got going on so far. I think I do. It's not that bad in terms of like soft design, you know. Pull it out a little bit. Look at the silhouette a little bit more. So what I know you can see this. I will also look at this sometimes. This guy up here, and you can make it bigger as well. You know. So you can see the design in the silhouette here, and you can look and see, okay, how does this read? Do you understand what the visual communication is here? See, this is something I don't like, and this is where, you know, just what they want, you give it to them. I had ears that were more pointy and elfish, and he requested them to be more like this. Although this, in my mind, I would think cow, you know. But this is what he liked, so I'm like, all right, it's, you know, for your campaign, have at it, man. I think I'm just going to start running and getting in some more detail in this guy here. So we'll start with the head, and then we'll go, you know, down the body. This is not a sprint in terms of how fast this needs to get done, which is nice because I can take my time and really just think about what it is I'm doing. I do that anyways, even if I have to go fast, but you know, I'll take the time to really make sure something is looking the way I want it to. Like, for example, I'm not a fan of just drawing the lines here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sculpt in the bumpy nature of the upper lip here. First I have to go back and back and back. So, whereas if I was doing speed sculpt or something, you know, I'm allowing myself to be okay with things not looking perfect, I guess. And at the end of the day, this is kind of like a broader topic. I feel as though, generally speaking, you should try to be okay with not perfect. It's tough. But I can't remember what quote this is, but someone said it. This is not my original thought. But there's a saying that goes, whether you never start or never finish, there's no difference. So it doesn't matter if you start something, if you are constantly trying to just make it perfect, so you never realize it into reality, like you never put it out into reality. What just happened here? There we go. If you never put it out into reality, if you never send it out there, no one will see it. You will not have finished anything. You will have just started many different things. As an artist, I'm guilty of that, as I'm sure many, many artists are. And I think it's part of the artist's journey to get over the need for it to be perfect. I'll wait for this plane to pass here. Okay. So I know a guy. I know a few guys, but this guy I know is a very talented guitarist. Forgive me if I messed up the way to say it, but I think that's the right way to say it. He's a guitarist. He plays the guitar, and he's incredibly talented. Very, very talented. I've heard him play, and he and I have had some discussions where many times he's told me that he has hours of music recorded, but he hasn't released a single song. You know, he hasn't put it out, not on YouTube, not on SoundCloud, not on Spotify, nowhere. It's on a hard drive, he said. And inherently, I don't think there's anything, wrong with that. It's not like it's really hurting someone or hurting himself, or it's not like a damaging thing. I think, when it comes to all this stuff, when it comes to art, what a luxury it is to be able to even try to make it a job, like the fact I have the option to. So it's not like life or death. However, many times he has expressed to me that he really, really wants it to be what he does. We're coworkers, so I work at a job right now that's not art related. I think I've mentioned that before. And he desperately wants to just be a professional guitar player and musician in a band or solo or whatever. It's just what he wants. He loves it so much. And when I asked him, I said, oh, well, how many songs have you put out? What have you done? What steps have you taken to make this happen? And he said none. Other than recording songs that he continuously goes back and tweaks. That's the other thing, is this guy never finishes his music, he said. This is what he struggles with. Is he'll do a song, he will record it, he'll save it, and then weeks, months, probably years later, he's going back and making tweaks, adjusting the sound, re-recording a piece, a section, adding vocals, getting rid of those vocals, adding them again, just the constant iteration. And so he's never put a single song out there. And I've said this to him, but ultimately it really seems that the fact that he cares so much is actually holding him back from achieving what he wants. Which is, how frustrating is that, It's true. If you care too much about something, sometimes that can actually be damaging to you achieving what you want, You need to become almost outcome independent when it comes to your work. You need to stop being so attached to what it is you're doing in order to get everything you want, which is talk about difficult, dude. So it's not like I'm berating this guy, because it's something I also have had to deal with. I understand the struggle of that. Even still, it's something I have to really meditate on when I'm struggling with it, and you need to become okay with not being exactly where you want to be yet, but still getting yourself out there. Because as frustrating as it is, for example, Van Gogh. Famous example of someone whose artwork didn't really go anywhere when they were around, I'm gonna hide this arm. It's just distracting, Or I'm just gonna only make the head visible because that's all I'm working on. So, where was I? Van Gogh, right? He, as most people know, his art did not blow up until I believe it was his sister-in-law found his art and started sending it to exhibits and what have you. And I think as poetic as that is, that's not the goal. You know, no one wants to have their art realized only after they're dead. You know, if you had a choice and you were told you can do art and then have it realized, and you take what you could get. If that was, you know, just what happened, all right, you know, it's better than nothing, I guess. But ultimately, if there's anything that, and I promise this is related, but if there's anything that Jake Paul has taught us, is that you do not need to be the best to make the most money doing what you want to do. Okay? Let me say that again. You do not need to be the best to make the most money. What you need to do is learn how to market yourself. I think when it comes to a lot of that too, you know, I hesitate to use the word luck, but that definitely, I would say chance has a role to play. However, a philosophy I've adopted from my father is that there's a fine balance between fate and free will. You know, things are going to happen to you, good and bad. And what you do have control over is how you respond to them, how you prepare for them, you know? So, for example, if we're going to talk in a positive light here, I can spend hours a day sculpting so that when an opportunity arises, I'm ready. When it comes to being an artist, you know, let's say someone sees something I've done and they really enjoy it and like the style and like, you know, whatever, and they go, hey, I'll come work on this project. You know, I'm ready because I've done it. But let's say, so what I was able to control is putting my art out there. And what I don't have control over is who eventually decides it's, you know, they like it. Something that's interesting also, and this you can see parallel between the boxing world, so with Jake Paul, you know, and with the art world, is that in the boxing world, Jake Paul is not impressing professional fighters, professional boxers, MMA practitioners. They're not impressed. Who is impressed are the millions of people who will watch his fights, you know? Or at least they're intrigued. Any competent person knew Mike Tyson is not winning that fight. The guy is almost 70, you know? And I don't care who you are, at 70 years old, you're not beating a 20-year-old who's trained boxing for, was it almost 10 years now he's done boxing? So it's just not happening. However, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? He still sold those the tickets. He still was able to get Netflix to stream it live. I think that was the biggest streaming event, or the biggest streamed event of all time. And he's not that great at boxing. At this point, you know, he's done it long enough. He's not it's not like he is atrocious at boxing. He's good enough to at least put on a show. He's good enough to look like to throw punches. But he really excels in marketing his fights. He knows who to pick that's going to rile people up the most, build the most intrigue, and he knows how to market it. It's you know, he's got to figure it out. And so bringing it back to art, you don't need to be the best artist to make it your living. The better you are, you know, the more opportunities will probably arise. However, you need to get yourself out there first to even have it be seen. And so, even if you're not where you want to be yet, you should be posting your art. If you want that, if that's your goal, is to make it your job, you need to put yourself out there. There's zero way around that. And I think a lot of artists struggle with that. We're very sensitive, I feel like it's really interesting how a lot of us will go through art critiques, I had an art professor in high school who would he did not hold back his punches. And my dad even told a story of an ceramics professor he had who accidentally, in quotes, dropped one of his pieces she didn't like onto the floor and had made him restart. And that was because, in his words, she knew his potential and he was slacking off on that project. So she made him do it again. So that was an instance of being pushed, So for a community in which we're so used to having our art, dissected, it still can be almost crippling to put it out there, because you can get used to the words that other people have to say about your art. It's more difficult to get used to the self-doubt in your own mind. That part is challenging to get used to. And so, there's that classic phrase, there's nothing you can say that I haven't thought, 1,000 times. I think with artists, there's a lot of reality to that, Even myself, it's just a struggle. It's not crippling, thankfully. I'm very happy that I have at least enough gumption to kind of silence that sort of part of myself, in a sense. I feel like that part of myself also pushes me to do better, though, too, where I finished a project because I just finished this, move on to the next one. And I look at it, days, weeks, months later, and I'm going, man, that could have been a lot better. This part I could have put more time in. I should have focused on this instead of this. I should have, blah 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 blah. But time moves on, and you need to continue growing. So by staying where you are, you're not going to. I think you can also revisit pieces. I think that there's value in that, because you can then kind of see how you've grown, which I think is huge. That's great that if you're able to do that, but back to this, what I was saying to this guy, it's like, I told him that. I said, you don't need to be the best yet to start at least putting your stuff out there. Ultimately, it's up to them. There is I think going to be a continuous battle between whose philosophy is the right one. When it comes to that stuff, is it better to take the time and really make it each piece your best piece ever, or is it more valuable to iterate on the mistakes of the last one on your new one? I feel like I'm in the second camp. Traditionally, I have a history of, even in other classes that weren't art related. Let's say I got a 70 on a math test or something, because historically I've not been the best at math. If I really wanted to, I probably would, but I've just never cared enough about it to actually get to a point where I felt like I could say I'm good at math. However, if I got a 70 or something on it, or just a grade that could have been better, professors will sometimes give you the option to go back. Oh, if you go back, you can get a higher percentage. It's almost as a point of principle that I would say, no, I'll just try better on the next one. I feel like dwelling on the past like that, in a sense, that's what it is. You're dwelling on, you don't, it's hard to put into words, the moral hang-up I have on it, but essentially I think it comes down to the sense that I want to move on, a stagnant river, will just gain muck. And some people might say it's not that deep, and they're probably right. But I think as an overarching principle that I carry, it ends up just bleeding through into other aspects of my life, like when I was taking those other classes. I'd say no, I'll try to do better on the next one. I'll take this opportunity and learn, because if I'm always given the opportunity to, this is another point. If I always know that there's going to be a redo available, what's the point in trying super hard the first time? I could slack off that first time, and then because I know, there's this redo available, and then what happens if that redo that I'm expecting doesn't come? I don't know. That's a weird one for me. It's definitely I feel like I'm not in the majority in that thought process, and that's fine. But it holds true for art with me. It holds true for art. That's what I said. Art, and it holds true with math. It holds true with a lot of things. So, even with past relationships. A couple times I've stayed friends with an ex or something, and I just wouldn't get back with an ex. In the same sense, I think a lot of people wouldn't. I think it's a very similar thing. No, that ship has sailed. Extenuating circumstances excluded. That hasn't happened yet. But I never say never with that stuff. Yeah, so I'm liking how this is. See how, like I said, I'm pushing the secondary details just a little further here. So he's got a lot of weird wrinkles in the concept piece that this guy sent me. And I'm trying to strike a balance between sculpting, chiseling in, and bringing out the detail. That's kind of, because when I first started sculpting, I would only do one or the other. I would be chiseling in, or I'd be expanding out, thinking that's enough. It's a mix of two and a soft little dance that you have to put on with your stylus here. It's an intricate dance between additive and subtractive. Something I really like about the clay buildup brush is that it kind of adds, especially on organic skin detail, man, it adds these nice subtle wrinkles. I really enjoy that. Okay, so we'll move on to the nose here. So on top of additive sculpting with the buildup brush, you can also kind of take away to accentuate angles. What I've done here as well with the clay buildup brush is I've taken in the focal shift a little bit and lowered the intensity, so I get a lot softer. Because I know I don't want I don't mind the brush stroke kind of showing through a little bit. I think I had, there was a professor of mine who emphasized not having that shine through, although sometimes I feel it. So, this is a funny story. The first good art piece I ever did was when I stopped listening to that piece of advice specifically. Now, I did listen to him on a lot of things, which made me a better artist. Like, I'm not saying he was an incompetent professor. Obviously, he's not. And obviously I didn't know more than him. What I am saying is that I feel like it was like almost throwaway statement by him as like a cautionary, don't let the brushstroke show through as much, that I internalized. And it was in that moment that I decided not to experiment. I decided I was going to let myself experiment. That I finally made this piece. And what made it so good is the usage of that texturing. I used the clay builder brush with an alpha. I used that alpha right there, the alpha 19, and I was doing some metal, and it was like super corroded metal, and I just was doing a lot of subtractive work with that brush and getting it to look like metal that was significantly weathered and worn. There was leather, there was skin, and I used the brush stroke. I didn't smooth it away completely. That adds subtle layering that I really enjoyed. I thought that looked really cool. So I kept it in. And that was the first time I did a piece that I, in art school, that I went, this is what, this is kind of the goal. I just reached a new level in terms of quality that I need to now try to stick to and grow past even more. And that was the first time, this professor actually, he, when we're all starting out, they're not insensitive enough to make you feel bad for not being exactly, where you are going to end up right away. They're not expecting you to be a master day one. Some people were incredible day one, and that can be really disheartening to see. But anyway, this was a piece that when I submitted it, he was quite impressed, and I never told him that it was because I stopped listening to him. I don't think he would have liked that, but and what's funny is he probably doesn't even remember that throwaway statement, because he said that like my first year of college, and I think I just took that to heart and like turned along with other things, just made it part of my never do this kind of thing. And so there's a story there about how sometimes not breaking the rules can take you places. It's a fun little story. So we're already like an hour in to this sculpt here, and I feel like I should say that I am still working on that other guy, the alien dude. But by the time this sculpt is over, you'll realize that I dedicate those 3 hours ish sessions to this guy here, because it's hard not to spend a long time on this guy to see any visible progress from when I start to when I finish at this point, because when you get to a certain point, you need to take longer to make detail that ultimately doesn't change a lot in terms of, like, if you zoom out, the silhouette of the guy, like nothing I've done here really has changed the overall silhouette. And the further you go, the further you push it, the more it gets like that. And so to see any like recognizable change, it takes longer and longer. And so I like seeing a definitive like difference between when I opened the project and when I closed the project for the day. And so I spend those days off working on this guy so I can get that kind of satisfaction. If if there was a time crunch on this dude, I would definitely be doing this guy every day, but also, like everyone else, I also need a break from things. So, I can pull back and have some kind of creative, rebirth, and then come back to it later. And usually I see something different. I see something I want to add or take away, and I have a new idea, and all that good stuff. So, okay, it is time to make these eyes look good. So, eyes are weird, because, and this is the negative side of not working in Dynamesh, is that I should have used, let me go back, I am going to use symmetry for the eyes here. You will get pixelation, and this guy's at, I think just the head is visible, so that's what it's showing, is 4.9 million polygons. However, the whole piece, this whole body, because this is not going to be hidden by, like, every part of this body is going to be visible pretty much, and so it's not segmented, and it's all one thing. And I could break it up if I really wanted to, but right now, no. I feel like that's gonna mess with keeping the flow of the natural, like, wrinkles of the skin looking good. So anyways, yeah, you can't Dynamesh this right now. At some point you can project, yeah, that's okay. At some point you can project the detail onto a new like remeshed surface, which can help. You can then kind of get a little more unified model in terms of topology. It's a little more evened out. However, that takes a lot of time, and hold on a second. Oh, so the eyes are not, I don't think the eyes are mirrored here. That's interesting. Okay, so we're going to go to the eyes. I'm going to make sure that the eyes are the only thing. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to just mirror this real quick. So, similar to last time, mirror. They are the same. That's interesting. Okay, whatever. I can keep working in symmetry here, and then it looks like this is just sunken in on this side a bit more. So what I'm going to do in a little bit is I can, like, push the eye in a little bit. So, where was I? Eyes have always been, I don't think the bane of my existence, but even drawing them is difficult, because I think with me I've realized there's so many different kinds of eyes out there. The eye shape is not unified. It's not unified. Yeah, that's okay. And so making it look a certain way can be difficult, because do you have old eyes, young eyes? In this case, I have, it's like a reptilian eye. You know what I mean? And then also, as I say, eyes are the windows to the soul. It's a very big focal point of any sculpt is the eye, and so you really also want to make sure you're getting that, you're getting it right. And so when sculpting eyes, in this case, I'm not really worried about it being able to blink, because I'm not sculpting with the idea of animation in mind, I'm sculpting with the idea that this is going to be a 3D printed character, and that it's going to look cool when I print it and post it. Nice. So I want this guy to be... to have very hooded eyes. When I say hooded, I mean his brow ridge is just incredibly intimidating here, just that overhang, you know. Because this is a sinister character, you know. Even with that, I want to have focus on the part of the eye that's not going to be seen as much, you know. Like, this is not going to be a massive sculpted, so the angle someone's looking at it is probably going to be something like this. And the distance, like how big it's going to be, is something more like this, you know? And so you're not really taking a good look at the eye folds and the eye creases. However, just being, you know, a meticulous artist, I'm taking the time. And when I say time, this is taking me less than a minute to do. Is to get this ridge here. And so I need Lazy Mouse to be a little more lazy for me. If you can hear that guy coughing, I'm sorry, he coughs all the time. Okay. And we kind of have like one bigger eye bag, I guess. So here's where a decision has to be made. This is a little too intense for me, first of all. Yeah. So here's where a decision has to be made. Do I want the thick eyelid vibe? Let me just fix this real quick. So, where I was talking about like being a perfectionist can hurt your art, having an eye for detail and knowing when you can fix something, and you should, that should happen, you know. Hopefully you get to a point where you recognize it before you've gone on and like finished the project, and then you realize, oh, this little thing and this little thing and this little thing, you just keep going. That's what I mean when I say being a perfectionist can hurt your piece, because you didn't recognize that it was a problem, you know, and you spent another month on a project, and you've gotten it to a unified point in which stylist, it looks good, you know. It's not like, obviously you're going to get better the next time. Even if it looks great, it'll be better the next time. But being able to recognize while you're working on it, like, yeah, so this little bump here, it needs some work. So I'm doing it now rather than not noticing it and then later on being like, oh, I need to go back and fix that. I'm going to take the entire post down just so I can, fix this thing, and then repost it. And then people are, didn't you just post that on LinkedIn? I just saw that. Why'd you repost it? And you're like, oh, I fixed this eyelid thing. I'm like, I didn't even notice that. Because that's another thing too, is we really are our worst critics. You got to recognize that. You got to realize that not everyone has the same, not everyone knows exactly what you were aiming for. And so if you don't reach that completely, not everyone's going to realize that. In fact, pretty much you, and only you, unless you have like a client who also shared the vision with you, or a team, only you knew what was in your head. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. It's not like it's not that it is important to reach a point in which you're happy with it, but it's also like, I feel more important to again, if you can hear him yelling, that guy is just loud. I apologize. I can't wait till I live in my own place where people aren't yelling. Yeah. That's something I've never understood, is the culture of screaming while you're gaming. That's a new one for me. Like, I get it, you get invested, and that's great, you really like your game. There's games I like. I just made a bet in Minecraft this morning. I'm pretty pumped. However, I think that if you're getting so worked up that you're screaming, I think you should get that checked out. Like, I think there's something else in your life going on that's making you release that kind of energy. I think your screaming would be better suited or better utilized in some kind of athletic endeavor where you're yelling at your teammates across the field, you get their attention. You're getting that energy out some other way. I think it is probably incredibly confusing for your mind and your body to have such an elevated, heart rate, and, to be yelling and animated to that degree when you're just sitting still. To your mind and body, that must be rather confusing. I can't imagine it's not. Do I like that? I think it's kind of interesting. This is a moment where I kind of took a creative liberty, but I think I might keep this here. I'll just make it not as dramatic on the edges. Nice. I'm talking about art processes, art philosophy a lot. Not that I've had anyone say this directly to me, but I feel like, and this could be my own internal bias kind of shining through, very often when I hear people talk about this stuff, well, at least when I was younger, when I'd hear people talk about this stuff, I would take it as an authority, especially if it was online and it was someone I didn't know. I guess I naturally assumed that they were experts, and that they were, a point of authority on this, that should always, their word is gospel. And there's definitely some people out there who, I still hold in incredibly high regard when it comes to their understanding of art and art philosophy and history and theory. I think there's definitely people out there who I would listen to almost unquestionably. I question a lot of things, so but with a lot of trust, I should say. And if you do hear me ramble and there's something you don't agree with, but at least for me, when I was younger, someone would say something, and even if I didn't agree with it, I'd say, well, they probably know better since they're posting this on YouTube. And as I got older, I realized that there's a difference between confidence in posting what you say, let's say, and being correct. And then also, there's a difference between having an opinion and being married to one. So anything I say while I'm working on this, sometimes my philosophies change. I allow myself to be a constantly shifting entity of thought, I guess, for lack of a better description. And so, even for myself, it can sometimes be confusing when I had this idea, and now all of a sudden the idea is different. And I said, well, what about, what I changed my mind, and then sometimes I go and think, well, what am I going to change my mind on next? Am I wrong? What else am I going to realize I might be wrong about? I don't dwell on that, but that's just every time I change an idea and have an opinion that alters, I usually go through this weird moment where I'm, curious about what am I going to be wrong about next. So anything I say, while I'm doing this, I am and have been fully aware that I could be wrong about something, or that an opinion I have may not ring true later in life. There can be a little bit of an anxiety with that, though, when it comes to, let's say, philosophy on how to live my life, or expand it further, just the philosophy on living one's own life. If that's shifting, and then you look back and you say, man, geez, I was living my life one way, and then now I realize that might not be the best way, at least for me. And I think, because I've had that thought too, and it can be a little disconcerting, and then can actually, in a sense, at least it did for me, give me a little less self-confidence, because I'm less sure about the decisions I'm making. Am I just going to go question them later? And then this is where it comes back to my overall philosophy on, all right, once again, it stopped recording. I don't know exactly how long I've been rambling to a black screen, but that's okay. Previously I was talking about Banksy, and I was also talking about the wall banana. I don't know when this cut off, but I was talking about Banksy and the wall banana duct taped to the wall that sold for a lot of money, and how it was us that gave it the value by giving it our attention. And then, where was I? Oh yeah, I got to Banksy because someone ate the banana, and someone ate the banana, and so it went up in value, similar to how Banksy's painting, when it's shredded after it got sold, went up in value as well. So, yeah, we definitely assign value to things. That's the only reason that Bitcoin has value right now, is because we've given it that value. We've decided as a society that this holds value to us. You know what I'm saying? We've determined that, whether the rest of the world likes it or not, this is what's happening. So deal with it, So yeah. Huh. Okay. So I don't remember where I left off. To you is probably just straight into this, but right now, I guess, so like right when I stopped talking before and after that, this project decided to crash. And I guess I'd forgotten to save. That happens sometimes. Very frustrating. I've kind of brought it back to like where I remember it being. It didn't take as long to get here as it took to get there initially, because I knew what I had done, so I just did it again. So I guess that's like there's a silver lining there, in that even if I have to do it again, the blueprint in my mind has been laid so that I don't have to make as many decisions. And if anything, I can kind of, add on to it. This is one of those moments where I'm forced to redo something, or like go back and, I lost about an hour and a half of work, so, or maybe more like an hour. Either way, I had to go back and do it again. Very, very frustrating when that happens. Sometimes it's just unavoidable, though. One of the benefits of working in ZBrush, working like on paper and not digitally, painting, drawing, all that stuff, is that paper doesn't have a malfunction and crash. You could burn it by accident, you could lose it, you could drop it, you can get it wet, you could damage it. But I feel like those are things that are within your control usually, to avoid. And so as long as you keep, your piece away from open flame, you should be okay. Sometimes working in a digital space, you're not even sure, in a symbolic sense, what would be an open flame sometimes, Like sometimes you do something you think will be fine, and it really wasn't fine. I have these nails that are in the way here, so I'm just gonna hide those. Whoa, go back. So yeah, I think I did a little pan out, but it's pretty much the same. I'm gonna spend another hour and a half on this, I think, and then call it good. So I've already spent 3 hours on this, if you count the redo. You're only seeing, so by the end of it, I'll have spent 4.5 hours. You're only gonna see 3 though, because I don't know. Well, it's funny that I'm already, before I'm even done, I know it's going to be 3 hours, because that's usually what I got in me, like 3 solid hours of work, and then, sometimes I hit that flow where I'm really going, and I can definitely work all day on something, but not in one sitting, I'm not built like that. I can work for 8 hours on something, though. It requires breaks, and I'd rather not, for the sake of like editing, keep coming back to something. You know, I'm trying to find a way to balance out working on something and enjoying life. So, you know, that's something I am currently trying to figure out is what is the best way to go about getting to where I want to be? Is it constantly working and possibly risking burnout, you know? Is it a more balanced approach? Because here's my dilemma. Many, how do I say it? Many successful people that I don't know, but I've listened to talk about their, you know, achievements in life. I'm talking people, you know, like Kobe Bryant and you know, people who've made it. Conor McGregor, as questionable as he is now, you can't deny he was a great combat sports athlete and did some amazing. Anyways, yeah, just people like that, influential people who essentially, personality and who they actually are aside, you know, in the instance of Conor McGregor, achieved some great things, and achieved their goals and set out to achieve a goal and accomplished that, you know, in great fashion. Anyways, listening to them talk about, you know, their life, a lot of them say that balance kind of took a back seat. You know, there was no balance. It was a unbalanced, almost obsessive approach to achieving their goal. And so that's, you know, that's pretty consistent amongst people who I kind of, in a sense, look up to in a way, in terms of, you know, people who achieve their goals. And I'd like to achieve my goals. And so I'm, you know, if they are talking about how they did it, I'm going to listen. However, I also understand that, you know, not everyone's the same, and everyone's on a different kind of path in life. You know, just because they did it one way doesn't mean that's the only way. And it's really difficult to figure out the right way. You know, because I'll put it this way. If I knew that spending 8 hours a day, every day, losing sleep, oh, there it goes again. Okay, so if I knew that spending 8 hours a day, every day, losing sleep on something, working on a task, if I knew that, you know, that would get me to where I want to be in 8 to 10 years, I would do it, you know? The thing is I don't know if that's the case. What if it's actually the opposite? What if working non-stop on something is actually going to cause me in the future to not want to do it anymore, you know? So I think I said this earlier, but I allow myself to be a constantly shifting entity of philosophy. Yeah, so I allow myself to be a constantly shifting entity of philosophy, you know? So sometimes I kind of try things out in that sense. where I'll sometimes work on something for a long time every day and see how that goes, you know? And then I allow myself to take a more balanced approach. I think when it comes to athletic endeavor, there is a certain amount of, there's like a definitive aspect to it in the sense that they aren't going to be able to do it into their 50s and 60s. And so there's a sense of urgency, they have to, get to where they need to be now, and when I say now, I mean like in their early 20s, early to late 20s, depending on when they started, I guess. They need to get to where they want to be as soon as possible before, essentially they kind of age themselves out of it. They need to get their body to where it needs to be, their mind to where it needs to be. And so there's that kind of, that lack of balance makes sense then, like they don't have time to figure it out. They've just got to go and hopefully figure it out on the way, I am unsure if that's the correct approach to art, because, and the reason I've come to that is I've tried that kind of unbalanced approach, and it's not, like, it's okay if something's not fun, having to redo this wasn't fun. It was a chore. I was upset about it, I'm not bent out of shape, not like freaking out, but I was definitely not happy I had to redo that, because it's a waste of what I had done. But what I'm saying is, I think that in an instance like being an artist, you got to enjoy the process. And I think that you have to allow yourself time to, in a sense, recharge, refuel, regain your sense of direction on where it's going. Get new inspiration. Draw inspo from life, and not burn yourself out, man. It's tough. It's tough to figure out the correct recipe for success in that aspect, It's not just sports, though. I can't remember what great philosopher said it, but that, basically it was very similar in the sense of, go after what you want and everything else is kind of a distraction. So in a sense, it's kind of like, what do you do if that's the case, and what you want to do can be so, I guess, not exhausting, but it like being an artist, you're very much in your own space a lot. You're not really around a lot of people. And that, for someone like me, it's kind of the reason I started doing this, because I'm a bit of a chatterbox. And I love chit-chatting with people and, gaining, people's insights on things and listening to stories and understanding different perspectives. All of that. I'm a student of life, and I love meeting new people, and I think this is one of those difficult, like, a sacrifice right now has been a lot of my time outside of when I'm doing my other jobs. I'm working on this art, this goal, and there's not a lot of room right now for a lot of other things, a lot of other people, a lot of other experiences. And I think lately I've realized that, well, back on the top of the sky, I don't like that. I realize I don't like that. But anyways, I've realized that this, especially, this being an artist is not the same as being like a combat sports athlete or like a basketball player or anything like that, you know? Because, you know, you get worse the older you get. I mean, at sports, because you're getting older, you know? I mean, LeBron James is 40, and I'm sure he's gotten good. Yeah, obviously he's good. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm sure he's, in his eyes, gotten better since he was 18 in terms of like understanding the game. Definitely. But there's going to come a time when age just is no longer a non-factor, you know, unfortunately for everyone. As an artist, you kind of get better as you get older, you know? Like, if you kept doing it, so if you keep doing art, if you're in your 20s and you do art for 40 years, by the time you're in your 60s, you're going to be an absolute master if you didn't stop, you know? And what's great is you can apply that to art still. But let's say you're a soccer player in your 20s and you're, you know, you've played soccer, you've been involved in soccer your whole life, and you are now in your 60s and you still love soccer and you haven't stopped playing. Like, you might be playing in a league for folks your own age, you know, in your age bracket. You still might be good amongst the folks who are your age, but there's an undeniable reality that a 60-year-old is going to have a very hard time outplaying a 30-year-old, you know? Whereas in terms of art, if two people started at the same point in their life, they had just been born at different times, you know? So one of them was 60, the other was 30. There's a very good chance that 60-year-old is going to be more advanced than that 30-year-old. And so what I'm getting at is there is a positive aspect in the sense that this is going to take a while to get to where I want to be, because the people you see have been doing it a while, you know, and they're just getting better. And it's hard to remember that just because you see art that is at a certain level, that they didn't get there, you know, in a day. They just didn't stop. And I really subscribe to the notion that discipline is important, but discipline doesn't mean pushing yourself to extremes every single day, you know? David Goggins would disagree, but I think discipline has more to do with just doing something. Well, there's no secret that doing something every day, you get a lot better, and you'd be amazed how quickly you get better. But I think where, you know, things get lost in translation is that doing something every day doesn't mean you are forcing yourself every day. You know, you're not pushing it to the extreme every day. Definitely, the push could just be doing it, you know? That, just doing it could be you pushing yourself, you know? Then, on some days, you do it to an extreme level. You know, some days, maybe I'm feeling amazing, and I do art for 8 hours in one day, you know? Non-stop. Sometimes I've done that. But if I did that every day, I think I would definitely burn myself out, you know? Just as with exercise, I think artists need time to kind of recover, you know, creatively. And I think that a really difficult part of, say, art school is it's hard to get that, you know? I was in a boat, though, where like a metaphysical boat, not a real one. I was in the position of wishing I had more art to do when I was in school, because you take art classes, but then you also have those silly required classes that you have to take. I once had a teacher, a professor, I should say, it was college, assign more home. This was a non-major specific class. It was a required class. Basically, at my college, we had, for all intents and purposes, a humanities requirement, but they called it core, like principles, like the core principles of whatever. Anyways, this professor assigned more homework, I kid you not, than the rest of my classes combined. Just unacceptable. And so I was amazed at that was allowed to happen. So I caught myself constantly wishing I had more art to do, and that I had more art-specific classes, because I feel like I would have gotten even better if all throughout college that's all I had to worry about, and not just writing silly papers that I had no interest in. I've never been a good student. I feel like I should preface that statement with this. I've never been a good student in terms of academics. Not because I'm incompetent, it's because I just very, very rarely have interest in things I have no interest in, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm not interested in something, it is difficult to get myself to find the reason why it should be, Like, I've never been that way. The pressure of getting good grades just was never a factor for me, Thankfully, I had parents who, the big thing with them was I was doing, like, as long as I was doing my assignments, and not just, I was trying, like, apply myself. So, I would do homework, I would write papers, and I would apply myself in the sense that I wouldn't fail them. But if I got a C, and this kind of goes back into, not redoing things. If I got a C in a class, which happened more than I would want to admit. Yeah, I was not a good student. But if I got a C, but I say I had the opportunity to redo it, I would say no. I'm just going to do something I'm interested in instead, Like, I'm just not... I've never been that way. And part of me was kind of jealous of folks that were, because, they were able to get into nice schools, and they're probably out there making a lot of money somehow. But, and I bet with some of them, they are enjoying what they're doing. So it's not like a moral thing for me either, I had a lot of friends who were good in school and enjoyed being good in school. Like, the goal for them was just to be good in school. Our priorities were just different, I guess. Yeah, I mean, when I've been interested in something, I do apply myself. I don't know what you call that. I'm sure there's a name for that, like you're not an idiot, but you don't really apply yourself if you're not interested. I'm sure there's a name for that. When I was a kid, they called it ADHD, but they still call it that. But I don't know. I feel like after learning about things like ADHD and whatever, I feel like, if anything, it's more of like a superpower, being able to hyper-focus on something you're interested in. Dude, that's great, And it kind of makes sense why they would want you to take Ritalin, so you wouldn't do that. So you could pay attention to the things they want you to pay attention to, Not to get conspiratory, but yeah, I did not take Ritalin as a kid. So, where are we at now? 2 hour mark, I'm feeling pretty good, you know? It's still not that late in the day. We'll see how much longer I go. I have a 3-hour like jazz playlist going. And so I kind of told myself that once that's done, then I'll be done. But I might get into a groove here where I just keep going. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Either way, you're not seeing this till tomorrow, which is going to be a Sunday for you. I will be working. I definitely can't wait till this is like my job. Until then, at my other job, I just make bagels. That's all I do. Is I prep the food that goes onto the bagels, and I, mix the dough and shape the bagels and put them in a cooler. And yeah, that's just one of my jobs. I got a few jobs that I've just picked up over the years, help pay the bills and all that. That's, I guess you could say, my consistent job. The other jobs are very much like a part-time based thing. I think those jobs are good, especially starting out doing something you want. I think you have to work a job like that to show yourself that that's not what you want, you know? I think those jobs are important. If you never see one side of the coin, it might not push you to flip it, Like every second that I'm not being every second that this is not my full-time job, is not, I shouldn't say not fun, but every second I'm working a job, say at this bagel shop, making bagels, it's just motivation to, when I get back home, get back to work, because if I don't, that's all I'm going to be doing. When I started college, the games industry, video game industry, was very much, it was like a land of plenty, The alumni had all gotten awesome jobs. Like the class that graduated the year before I started, they were the pride of the school because they were getting all these jobs, and it was awesome, that we're being told, yeah, this person that our professors would say, yeah, this student that I taught last year now works at this company, right? And that got us super hyped, we were pumped. This was that was before even ChatGPT was around. So it's amazing how fast things change. Because this wasn't that long ago. This was 5 years ago. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. It was like a land of plenty, and by the time I was a senior in college, it was this... I don't know, if you're watching this, what your interests in life are. Clearly, if you clicked on this video, you're at least interested in possibly 3D sculpting, or just curious what this would be. But the games industry as a whole right now is a nightmare, dude. It's, they're firing way more than they're hiring right now. There's conjecture as to why, and I think I've heard some interesting theories, like regarding COVID hires and all that. I think there's probably some truth to that, but ultimately, I think it has to do with the fact that, like, automation is kind of swallowing the industry right now. I think everything does, in a sense, end up balancing itself out, though, so it's not like I'm freaking out about it. And I was never really married to the games industry anyways. again, I think I've said this before, but I'm just an artist, you know? I just wanted to be an artist, and this was a medium in which I hadn't learned. You know, I learned painting, drawing, tile work, ceramics, clay. I used to, you know, my dad and I used to make clay. You know, we used to dig clay out of the earth, or we used to dig soil out of the earth and make it into clay, and we would make things, and he made his own kiln. And so anyways, this was new, and I didn't see at the time any other way to learn this stuff other than going to college. And by the time I was there, I was just a fan of the program. It was a good program. I don't regret a thing, even still. But yeah, now it's no longer enough to be a graduate. You need experience. And right now, any job that is being opened up by a studio, you're, as a recent college grad, you're quite literally competing with folks who've been in the industry for decades who got fired from their past job. And you can imagine how all of a sudden this creates a situation where you, as a young recent college grad, are not the best candidate. It's kind of devastating, you know, especially if you were almost promised that your freshman year. That took a lot of time to get over. I was quite frustrated by not just the games industry, but just, you know, life as a whole. I felt a little gypped, you know. But I had to remind myself that I was never married to being a video game specific artist anyways. You know, my initial thought was tattooing. I wanted to be a tattoo artist, and I ended up getting an apprenticeship up in Montreal, which was pretty fun, and that was during my time studying abroad there, actually. Anyways, I just had to remind myself that I had come into the program with the thought that this may not be what I end up doing. I just wanted to learn how to do it. And so now that that's kind of, you know, what happened, I'm not a game artist right now, professionally at least. Since that's happened, now I kind of laughed at myself, and I went, well, you know, the risk you took didn't work out, you know, and you had kind of already thought you weren't going to be a game artist immediately. You know, you at least accepted that. And then I was getting upset, and I kind of laughed at myself. Like, now you're going to be upset about it? That's just, you know. Anyways, I decided, I made a decision, and then the decision didn't pan out the way I thought it might, and then, well, I was supposed to be sad. I just brushed myself off and started thinking of other ways to do what I wanted to do, you know. And I realized I just want to be an artist. I think I've really fallen in love with this medium, but this is definitely there's other ways to go about making this a job than working for a game studio, you know. And that took me some time to come to terms with. So, but now we're here, and I'm pretty content, you know. I work a job that pays everything I need, and then I can come home and I can just work on stuff, you know. And I'm slowly finding a routine in doing this that I am comfortable in and could sustain for quite a while. So yeah. You know, I think a lot of this ties into what I was talking about earlier with like Jake Paul, and just, you know, not having to be the best to start making at least a living doing something, you know. I really do use that as like a self mantra a lot to kind of keep myself going in a sense. Because yeah, it can sometimes be overwhelming seeing some art online, let's say, and you know, you're just going, oh my, how am I ever going to get to that point, you know? In time, that's how. In time, you will get to that point. But there's no need to wait. There's really not. There's no need to wait to get there. Before you start posting your work, putting it out there at the very least, you know, applying to jobs, all that good stuff. You know, something this is a YouTube channel, but I also run a TikTok channel for, you know, under the same banner, you know, Vermeer Atelier. And something I've been trying to work on is balancing quality and consistent, you know, posting of art. It's a bit of a daunting task trying to figure out the correct balance of art to content, you know, that kind of ratio. Like, you could do a lot of things quick. It won't look as good as if you take some time. But then at the same time, you may not gain a following if you're not posting often. It's a very interesting area of marketing to try and figure out. There's, you know, not hacks, but there's definitely, you know, informational videos on all this that I've, you know, watched a little bit of, trying to just gain any kind of understanding. Because in terms of social media, I'm not like a tech guru, like a guru on all this, or I'm not like a savant, you know. I'm an artist. I'm an artist that's trying to find a way to market my art. I think it's kind of like a journey that all creative people have to go on, is finding a way to not lose who you are and sacrifice the quality of your art, while also finding a way to continuously make content, you know, because at the end of the day, if you're posting on YouTube and you're posting on Instagram and you're posting on TikTok and you're just making all this stuff, you become one part artist and another part content creator, which is it's kind of like I guess that title has some taboo to it now, you know. People kind of scoff at the idea of that now, and I understand. It's definitely not something I thought I would end up essentially being. I never thought I'd be a YouTuber or post. I have not had TikTok ever really before I started trying to market my art. I never thought I would, you know, but I see almost a necessity for it to get to where I'm trying to be. And now all of a sudden, you know, there's people who've been on TikTok and social media since the beginning of it and doing essentially what I'm doing right now. And they've been doing it a lot longer. And so now there's that competition. And turns art from a very personal, individualized journey to a competition. And it's always been, in a sense, a competition. There's always been, and since the dawn of time, since the dawn of artists, there's been a slight, there's been a competition of like who the best artist is going to be. Who's going to get this contract at the Coliseum, or this museum, or I said Coliseum, but I meant church. To like to paint these stained glass windows, or to paint the ceiling. I mean, Michelangelo's. Forgive me, my art history is not great in terms of my memorization of it. But I've seen that painting he did on the ceiling. And, well, a lot of that was his at that point he was a director, I think, if I remember correctly. He was directing the production of that wall. I don't think he himself personally painted every single inch of that. I could be wrong. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Where was I going with this? Oh, competition, right? Yeah. So I think some people have a hard time having that kind of competitive aspect drive their art. I don't mind though. I grew up doing, sports, and I was always a competitive guy anyways, so I think where it becomes not great is when jealousy starts to kind of take over, which is common. It's unfortunate, but it is common. And I think ultimately it's just like, it just takes time, you've just gotta be jealous for a little while, to be perfectly honest. Some people probably never had to worry about that, but I mean, I'm definitely guilty of having moments where I'm looking at someone who's very successful, or their art is just incredible, and I feel jealous. I feel bummed out that my art is not that good yet. Especially if someone, for me it was if someone younger than me, was past where, further on than where I wanted to be, that's tough. Because you're like, dang, if I had only started when they did, or been, if I had only been as dedicated as they've been, I could be where they are at that age, and then who knows where I'd be now, But the reality is you didn't, or maybe you did, but for me, I had to tell myself that I didn't. And so, whatever. It doesn't mean you should not keep working, Get back to work. Who cares, You wanted to, you would have. And you didn't want to, so you didn't. But now you do, so you're going to do it now. And in 10 years, you're going to thank yourself for doing that. And so, yeah, that was kind of how I got over that, jealousy, I guess. As I understood that jealousy was kind of coming more from, it had nothing to do with the other artist, It always had to basically just be forced self-reflection, and a frustration at myself, and a yearning to be better than I am now. So now it's really just motivation. You can't change the past. You can't go back in time and make yourself pick up a pencil younger. You can't make yourself do any of that. And ultimately, you don't even know if that would have helped you. Because we're all different, Maybe if you had forced yourself to, back then, if you could go back in time and force yourself to be dedicated to the pencil, the paintbrush, whatever, at a younger age, if you forced yourself to do that, you think you wouldn't have burnt out? Who knows? Maybe you just weren't ready, We're all on a different timeline. And some people are able to at a younger age, and I think some people need to figure it out, I know some people who did force themselves and burnt out. They lost interest, you know. They found things they enjoyed doing, but it wasn't art, you know. And if they do art, it's just for fun, and that's fine, you know. I think there's a big difference between art for yourself and art for the bills, you know. And I've talked about that before. I think currently where I'm at, I'm kind of like in a medium ground where I'm doing art right now so that one day it can pay the bills. And in a sense, I'm treating it as if it is, so that one day it will. If that makes sense. I'm kind of faking it till I make it, you know? In my mind, this is my full-time job. I've even, you know, without even, like instinctively, I guess I've got myself so convinced. The other day I had someone, I ran into an old friend and we were talking. She asked what I'd been up to. And I go, oh, I do art full-time. It was so ingrained in me internally, and that no one had asked me that, you know, yet really, like no one I hadn't seen in a long time had asked me, you know, what are you doing now? So I didn't even know that I had internalized it to that extent until I said that. And she goes, oh, like do you work somewhere as an artist? And I went, oh wait, no, I don't. No, I'm sorry, I do X, Y, and Z for work, and when I'm not doing that, I'm an artist. You know, I just go to my I would say studio, but really it's just my bedroom and do art, and that's been my life. But it really has been so internalized by myself that in my head already I'm a full-time artist. Who knows if that's healthy? I definitely am not the one to figure that out, though. So yeah, only time will tell if this channel's still up and if I'm still doing stuff, or if maybe it's not up anymore, but I've moved on to other things because of this, or because of just the art I'm doing and a job I applied to, or whatever. You won't know until you get there whether or not it's worth it. And so until then, it's kind of just like faith. And in an egotistical sense, it's faith in yourself, you know? And maybe not egotistical. Maybe that's the wrong kind of word. But in a there's like a lot of self-confidence that comes into putting trust in yourself. You know, banking those chips, just deciding that, yeah, this is gonna happen, you know. Until that point, you just kind of have to hope that it is, you know. You kind of have to hope that you end up where you want to be and that it all works out. And until that point, you know, you do it for free. You do it for free, and you enjoy it, and you find a way to enjoy it. And I think sometimes taking my foot off the gas is how I can continue to do it for longer, you know. Some people are probably able to not stop ever, and I definitely, you know, sometimes I can do it for hours and hours and hours. But I think my artistic juices run dry at certain points, and I just need time to recharge it, which is the frustrating aspect of being an artist. You know, you have that, what they call artist block. I think the good news about like a character like this guy is, in terms of creative decision making, I definitely mentioned earlier, but like a lot of that's been chosen for me. So I think the last video I was talking about, or maybe the video before, I was talking about how when I'm working off a concept, like a drawn concept, the decisions have been made almost entirely creatively. Obviously some things will allow for creative decision, but I mean it also depends on how stringent the final design, your art director is on the final design. In an instance like this, so this is, like I said, well, I'll wait for the plane to stop. So, as I was saying, in an instance like this, there are countless images and descriptors of Nicol Bolas, this dragon guy that I'm doing, so that if I'm feeling burnt out creatively, I can still do this guy, because even if I'm feeling like creatively drained, I can still pop on a Netflix show and on one screen and get to work on this guy on the other, treat it as a mundane task, like brushing your teeth, like I don't need to be inspired to do that. I just do it, and so this is kind of like, and this is why I like sculpting that other guy, because that is a creatively engaging task. This guy is more just make him, make him look good, and interesting, and stay true to the character design, but still make it a creative endeavor. So yeah, it's just a little less demanding when it comes to my creative energy, because at the end of the day, I can always just basically do a one-to-one of the concept, or an image, because I'm not really working off of one concept, and I would show you, but you can't see my pure ref. I'm working off of many different images that I've Pinterest, and I think Magic's websites has, or not their website, Magic has they sell merch and stuff that I'm using as reference. So like the actual product owners designs, so they've done it already. And before, I guess I should just get into this now. This is like a owned product, like the IP is owned by someone else. So I will definitely not be. I was talking about printing the other guy, the alien dude I'm working on. Yeah, I'll be doing that, and I'll probably put it online somewhere to sell along with other stuff. But at some point when I'm ready to do that. But this is not going to be one of those. I do not need the power of the powers that be to come raining down on me, even if they don't immediately. If I became prominent enough of a 3D sculptor, and it got to them that some guys making, let's say this blew up and made a bunch of money, this model, if it did, I don't need them coming down on me. And I don't want to either. I just don't. I don't know. Maybe some people don't see the point in copyright laws. I think it is annoying when it comes to music on YouTube. I've said that before. It is a little annoying because, I'm not trying to sell their music. it would make sense if I was trying to say I made this album and it was like, Tyler the Creator's like newest album or something, and I was like, no, I did that, and tried to sell it. Like, that's one thing. Like, that'd be like saying, like, sculpting this guy and being like, I made this character, here, you can buy it. And it's like, no. Like I was just saying, the creative decisions have already been made on this guy, and I'm just kind of tracing, essentially. It's like trying to sell a tracing. I think that there's a lot of value in coming up with your own things, that's just me. When it comes to like corporate law, if nothing else, I just need to find ways to be okay with the frustrating aspects of it, and that's how I found a way to be okay with it, where it's, it doesn't bother me that after working on this guy, I won't be able to sell him. I'm doing this for fun. It's good practice. I'm definitely, I'll put the image, like the render of this guy up online, because I know I'm going to be pretty happy, I think, with how it comes out. But yeah, I'm definitely not selling him. I don't even know if I'd be able to monetize a video like this. Because I'm sculpting someone else's thing. I don't know. I really don't care, ultimately. I want to do it, so I'm doing it. I know they're not going to take it down, so that's kind of all that matters to me. I want to make this guy, and I want to post it, so that's what I'm doing. Because recording myself is in a sense, I think, kind of therapeutic. This is kind of like for me. It allows me to feel like I'm talking to someone, in a weird way, while also kind of letting it's talking is engaging, and so by talking into a microphone, or really just like my phone recorder right now, by doing that, it's almost like I got someone in the room with me that I'm chatting with, and then it makes working on this go by a lot faster. Let's see. I'm pretty happy with how this is coming out so far. You can see I'm doing a lot of skin folds and wrinkles, especially around these ears. Because the ears are so, they're cartilage. There's cartilage in your ears. It's a stiff membrane that it's going to be pushing against your skin. So ear folds, especially with something with a lot of skin, I guess, or wrinkly skin, you gotta add those in. It adds there's an added level of realism to that, in a sense. So just this just like that. Yeah. You might be wondering why I'm not doing the chin here. That's because there's a metal ornament that goes on his chin it's another subtool that is not in this this project file. So like I was saying, I have, and I think I'm going to use it in the thumbnail, just so, I mean, you can kind of go back and reference that if you're interested. Like the full block out so far of this guy is in another file, but at a certain point you kind of have to separate them if they get really big. Just because you know you don't want things crashing. It already did crash, you know, and that's not even like it's not even the whole project. I don't have. I think where the wings are in here actually, but I have them hidden. But I don't have the base, and you know, he's got armor and stuff that hides a lot of his. There's like forearms that like gauntlets, and he's got that. He's got a lot of like his ornamentation going on, but anyways, it covers parts of his body, and the chin thingy is one of them. That little, I don't even know what you'd call this kind of protrusion from your lower jaw, but this like weird chin thing. Yeah, because he's got like Egyptian, he's got an Egyptian inspiration. Or he, I think, was supposed to have inspired the Egyptian-esque characters in Magic, the Magic story. I forgot what his name was supposed to be. I did do research on the character when I was asked to make him for my guy's campaign. You know, we're just going to print this out for him. He can have it in his thing. But I didn't, I did watch a deep dive, and I just don't remember it. I watched it once to kind of gain a little bit of interest in inspo. But ultimately, like, his story is not going to help me make him. Not that I'm not interested, but I just like making him. So I focused more on just sculpting him than learning about him. Which, I don't know, maybe some people feel like you need to know the whole backstory. And for, you know, I think my own original characters, I would kind of have fun doing that, I think. You know, creating a backstory. But the backstory is already created. You can just go look it up, you know? Like later I might just, out of curiosity, look it up. Like, what was this guy's backstory again? I think his brother, he thought he killed, right? And the little egg thing that's in between his horns, I believe the spirit of his brother is actually in that, which is interesting. But it's not going to help me sculpt. Like, I'm not sculpting a little guy in there, you know? What I do need to think about is this transition. Because these are perpendicular, you know? They're just, I don't want just that. But I don't think I want them feeding into each other either. So I think what I'm going to do is take this, and just to save time, I think I'll work in symmetry if it's not on. It is on. Okay. So we're going to go to the Geo Soft. By the way, this Geo Soft is this brush that does this. I can't remember where I heard about it, but it is great. And it's free. If you just look up Geo Soft ZBrush brush, I think that's how I found it, and that's exactly what I was told by someone. I wish I remembered who. But they said, yeah, if you look it up, it's free. And I looked it up, and it was free. And that was a handful of months ago, and my laptop, or I guess my desktop, I'm not on my laptop right now, has not exploded. Anyways, so, take it from me, whose desktop, has not exploded. Take it from me that you should be okay. if your desktop or laptop, or I guess now you could do it on an iPad, if any of that does explode, not my fault. Saying that right now. But yeah, I think you could honestly get it from ZBrush's website, in all seriousness. Alright, let's see. Alright, I'm gonna build these up with the clay build-up tool here, I think. So just kind of accentuate this right here. Yeah. Coming in, just the skin folds under the ear feeding into the mid part of the mandible. So, like right now, his mouth is open, obviously. And I kind of like this idea of the need for excess skin to allow that kind of folds in on itself when his mouth is closed, because he needs to be able to open his mouth wide. And so right now, even though his mouth is open, it's not to its fullest extent, and there is some foldage going on here because of that. Is kind of my thought process. And then that foldage goes into and then under the ear. Seems to make the most sense to me. I think I'm going to dam standard so I can get some more defined folding going on. I'm actually going to zoom out too, because I feel like you ever like work too close on something and then you pull back and you realize you messed up? I want to avoid that. So once again, back to the drawing board in terms of trying to just get the forms looking decent. I see right now there's just one thick strip, another thick strip, another thick strip, and that's what jumps out to the eye right now. I want to kind of break that up a little bit, you know. So let me just focus up here. Okay, I feel like that's a bit better, you know. Definitely didn't take long to break up those strips I was talking about, like the 3 here. But that's really the power of primary, secondary, and tertiary, like holding that in high regard, you know. And valuing and understanding the importance of those 3 different levels of detail. Because, you know, ultimately, again, if I drag this guy out and you just really focus on this silhouette here, obviously there's this hole, you know, where his horns should be, but very clearly this is some kind of predator, and there's nothing that so these would be, again, the primary. I'm still not over how this looks like a goat or a cow, but again, the guy who wants me to do it asked me to do it this way, so I'm alright, man. So if you see at some point that this has changed, just know I've won an argument. So yeah. What do I want to do here? What I'm gonna do is take a look at the whole thing right now. So I'm pulling away and seeing, compared to the rest of the body right now, how well this holds up, the face. Because I just spent, a good amount of hours working on just the face, not going crazy details in terms of like pores yet, but just seeing, okay, if I zoom out, obviously you can't really see much, but then at what level does it become noticeable and readable, and does it look good from different perspectives or different distances away? Because ultimately, this is going to be a printed guy, and so it's going to be large as well. I'm going to be breaking it up into sections, so you do want it to be rather readable from multiple different distances. I think this is fine for now. Yeah, this is fine for now. So, all right. Yeah, I think for now this is a pretty good place to end it. This is how he looks with his wings, and that's that egg I was talking about. We have nails. I brought some straps in to kind of pre-plan where I'm gonna break him up where these straps are. So there's gonna be chest plating, and like right around here I'm gonna split the upper torso and lower torso, so it kind of sits into place where the straps are gonna hide that crease line. Anyways, that's something for later. Yeah, I'm gonna turn on all the layers here as well. So I've been recording in many layers right now, just because I want to be able to iterate on what it is I'm doing. I do initially plan out, I like drag alphas onto the surface to kind of get an idea of what I'm going to be doing, and then I go back in after and actually do it after I've laid in the actual like detail. So yeah, so this is what he's looking at like right now. Pretty happy with the progress, and I've worked a lot on this guy outside of like recording. I mean, I've been recording, but like I said, I haven't really posted any progress. I've been focusing more on just sculpting and then making one big video that I'll post. But yeah, in the sake of not boring myself, I feel that I kind of wanted to record the process of working on this guy. And yeah, so this is I think the third Sculpt Along Artcast video that I've done. Thank you if you made it to the end, and I will see you on the next one.